How can a data center market to target companies? How can a data center market to target companies? That's an excellent question. And the reality is, there's a lot of convergence between marketing and sales roles that's now happening and needs to continue to happen. And the delineation between the two, been saying this for the better part of 6 months to a year already, is that marketing professionals need to be prepared to go much deeper into the buyer's journey than they ever have in the past throughout their career. And sales professionals need to be prepared to come in much earlier in the buyer's journey than they ever had in the past, so that there's true collaboration throughout the full buyer's journey. And this is a really big deal because so many of your ideal buyers for data center related products and services are just doing a ton of research on their own before they're ready for a sales conversation. So we need to make sure that you get in as early as possible. When it comes to your target companies, you should have that well documented. You should have an ideal client profile that identifies the geographic parameter, the company size parameter, the industry, the business models that these companies are located within. And then you have your target account list. And I'm a huge believer that your target account list, especially for long considered high value purchases, if it's not manually compiled, at least needs to be manually reviewed, because a lot of the solutions that pull together stuff get a lot of bad data if they're not humanly curated. But so let's assume that you've done all this, that you have someone in a sales role or sales operations or someone that's done a really good job of matching up what you intended your ideal client profile to be and the couple dozen or the couple hundred or the couple thousand target companies that are there. So what do you want to do to successfully market and sell and advance as many of those opportunities as possible? Is we need to understand who in those companies is going to care the most about our product or service that we're currently providing. We'll know about that typically because if you've been in business a while, you probably have reviews or testimonials or case studies. And from there, you've identified who the most important kind of stakeholder is that shows up on the decision committee, and who the second most important kind of stakeholder is that shows up on the committee. And we'll designate them like your primary and your secondary buyer persona. And from there, we've done the research and figured out what they care most about, what they're struggling with. And we figured out a way that we're going to educate and build trust with our primary and secondary buyer persona about the things that they care most about that are stressing them out the most. And we're going to show up early and often. We're going to have a great blog and great podcast and great YouTube presence and LinkedIn presence. And we're going to address the exact issues that they care about most in their own words, not the words that we think that they care most about, but the words they actually do care about, because we've done our homework and we've done our research and we have very buyer-centric approach to marketing. And we're recognizing that early on, they don't want to hear about our data center products and services. All they care about is their biggest goals and challenges as they navigate through the awareness and the consideration, the early and middle stages of their buyer's journey, where we can't show up as marketers. We can't show up as salespeople. We need to show up as teachers, consultants, subject matter experts, trusted advisors, and thought leaders. And if we show up, it's a beautiful thing, because we'll stay with them throughout most of their 28 touch points between complete stranger and purchase decision. We're able to stack the decks very significantly in our company's favor with swaying the purchase criteria. If we're completely absent, or we only pinky toe show up, meaning that we only have one of the 28 touch points, well, we're leaving our company really vulnerable to another company that is more aggressive and doing a better job of educating and building trust at scale, being the ones to take up most of that surface area and much more significantly influence the criteria that's there. So that's the end goal, is that we want to spend so much time with them that we're nearly guaranteed to be on the short list. When we do this super effectively, in certain cases, our content and our events experiences may have completely neutralized all the other competitive options that are out there. But when it comes to how a data center company can market to how a data center can market to target companies, for sure, make sure the companies are well defined, make sure the buyer personas are defined, make sure you understand the goals and the challenges of those buyer personas, and they have a great content strategy, great educational content strategy for events and resources that let you spend time significantly imparting, evangelizing, indoctrinating your target market with your worldview on how they should be looking at these related issues. That's really how you do marketing effectively. From a tactical playbook perspective, if you're that focused on a target account list, I would for sure be embracing account-based marketing. For relatively small companies, even without a lot of internal resources. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a tremendous resource for executing on this. LinkedIn Campaign Manager, the LinkedIn ad system, when it's done right, can also be a phenomenally effective and even relatively low cost way of doing this. Typically, if you're going after target companies, you have figured out a way to get a lot of the waste and inefficiency out of your lead generation, lead nurturing, and new customer acquisition process. And as long as you have relatively healthy unit economics, all of those options should be on the table. For much larger companies, yeah, there's solutions and platforms and technologies that are several levels in sophistication above LinkedIn Campaign Manager. But for a lot of companies that are just getting started with relatively modest resources, where they want to invest a couple $1,000s a month in something like this, LinkedIn Sales Navigator and LinkedIn Campaign Manager are a great place to get started when it comes to things as basic as like loading up a target account list and targeting those companies and inviting them to download your latest ebook, register for your latest webinar. I'm a huge believer in webinars, and not just a one and done webinar strategy, but a webinar strategy that allows you to spend a significant amount of time with your prospects throughout the full buyer's journey, a full buyer's journey webinar program. And in terms of developing great relationships with the right people in these target accounts, you need a way to get that initial message in front of them. Once you do, you don't really need to go back to Sales Navigator anymore. You don't need to go back to Campaign Manager anymore. They're in your CRM, they're in your database, and you use a platform. I don't know, it could be something like HubSpot or something similar to stay in front of them and continue to introduce them to your newest resources, invite them to your latest webinars and latest events where you can continue to educate and build trust. So that's how a data center can market to target companies and be very realistic about what your ideal buyers want from your company throughout the full buyer's journey.